Welcome back to a new episode of Breweries of the Bluegrass. I'm James Wolverton, and this week, if the shirt hasn't given me away, we are talking Ethereal. Now, Ethereal, they're not the newest, but they're far from the oldest. They're kind of somewhere in the middle, but a really fun brewery with a really fun mission statement, which is blurring the line between science and magic, which is what a lot of brewers and distillers do when you make spirits, which is kind of fun. I didn't know until the past few years how scientific it really was. I mean, I knew the overview of it, but when you start really diving in and all the chemistry involved and the engineering and stuff, it's just... But you can get all of that stuff right, just like, the big three do consistently, and there's something to be said about that, but you also get a consistent, oh my goodness. You get consistent, our mascot did not want to get loved like he was getting loved because he's getting called.
Sorry.
Keep it in, it's kind of funny. Human side, but he's purring now, so he's okay. See, cats. Distillery cats, brewery cats, we have a YouTube cat because that's what it's devoted to, and he just needs to be on the camera here sooner or later. But there's a lot of science, but there's a little bit of magic, and it's the reason cats are around, that you have to make it really taste right, because you can have everything scientifically perfect and have a perfectly boring beer, but the phase of the moon might be just right and the yeast react a little different. You're gonna have something that tastes just slightly better. That's the magic involved. It's really kind of fun and neat on how that works. So Ethereal is located in the Distillery District here in Lexington, Kentucky. And the Distillery District is the old pepper plant, distillery plant that is. And until 5-6 years ago, it was a mess. It was located off Town Branch. It was just this big derelict building. Ethereal and several other places came in, really redid it. It's good and bad on how popular it is. Friday and Saturdays, if you want to go down and visit the place, make sure you get there early because parking is a nightmare, even though it's better than it is now because at least it's paved. It used to be just a gravel lot, but it just gets really busy. One of the other things I do like about it is because Goodfellas is right next door. And since Ethereal doesn't really serve food, you can go get a great piece of pie, come next door, have that, and they have some great beers. Their focus is on Belgium, but they're certainly not limited to that. They will take about any kind of America styles too, and a lot of high gravity. The nice thing about it, what they do with their events is they're very open to the beer community. Truly, I think they're one of the best examples of what the beer community should be, at least for this size of breweries, because they'll have anyone involved. We had a high gravity event a couple weeks back, and the high gravity 8.5% beers or higher. Only about half of them were Ethereal beers. The rest were all the other local breweries here in Lexington. Even some out of Louisville came down, and even the brewers themselves came to visit. And this is in Ethereal's, tap room with their brewing equipment, but they didn't care. Come on in, and you got to talk to and try all these great, intense beers. They also have tons of fundraisers. Seems like every other week they're advertising something for raising for habitat, for schools. In fact, this t-shirt, when you buy it, I got $5 put toward one of the local elementary schools. So just a fun example of what a brewery can be. If you're coming to visit Kentucky for distilleries, it's an ideal location for either the big boy with Town Branch, or if you're doing the craft tour, Pepper is right next door, which is a fun tour, and definitely Barrel House is just the next building down. So perfect location for all that. Just a fun place and fun way to enjoy. So we are going to try one of their beers. It's I wish I came up with the names because they're always creative. Quadzilla. So it's a Belgian-inspired, and that was one of the things I learned, that Quad is not truly an original Belgian, but it's a Belgium-inspired version of double. So what is a double? It's 4 times more intense, so it's a quad. So it's a quad. And I'm not 100% certain if that's where the name came from, but it makes sense to me that it's more intense, twice as intense as a double. So it was a quad. But it is supposed to be higher APV, a little bit darker to ruby, definite beer you could cellar, do the alcohol content, and leave it alone. And their glassware and just their marketing stuff is so cool too. On the Instagram posts I've always had some really good comments on their stuff. Definitely where it is high gravity, high alcohol, a brandy snifter globe style to consolidate the. Ooh, that does smell good. And definitely, this is, wow, darker than Ruby Red. The Beer Advocate said Ruby Red, but this is nice and dark and looks intense. Yeah, that's a relaxation. A couple of my favorites that they do not have tap, their double and their barrel aged double, which is really good. If I remember right, it's Asmodeus. Once again, these names: Asmodeus for the regular and Beelzebub for the barrel aged. They do a wonderful barrel aged imperial stout, which is called Baba Yaga. Once again, still that kind of magical theme, and what better for a spirit-filled imperial stout than a Russian witch? Why not? It's just very appropriate and very fun. Definite high recommend do visit. God, you boy, yeah. We'll be sipping on this for a little while, me and the producer.
It looks like a Ruby Red from here when you hold it.
Maybe
the way the light hits it, I can see it, and I don't think it shows in the. Pull it down a little bit. Yeah, like there's Ruby Red right through the glass right there.
Yeah, right down the bottom, but it's right through the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty.
Very pretty.
Almost like a real ruby. I mean, that's a.
Yeah, it's dark. It's not one of those manufactured rubies. This looks like a real Ruby Red.
There is a difference.
There is a difference. There's a difference with the real stuff too. So when you come to Lexington, if you're doing the distillery tour, it's perfect. It is on the craft trail for bluegrass brews, so it's on the beer trail. Lots of fun to visit. One of our favorite places. Like I said, the only real knock I have is the best benefit is their location, because it's neat and historic. Their biggest drawback is their location, because parking can be a bear on weekends, and also the construction on Manchester, which is the street they're on, means you have to do a bunch of detours. But once it's all done, it's going to be wonderful again. So Ethereal, fun place to go. We really enjoy it. Grab a piece of pie, come over. I would suggest go with the Belgian doubles. They also do some great farmhouse beers. Also, you gotta make IPAs, and even a Pilsner that the dad tolerates. So it's quite solid. So we will see you in a couple weeks. We're going to look at a new one that's close to home for me and the producer on the next episode. But remember, always drink craft and always drink local. We'll see you in a few weeks.